Hey everyone, this is Peter Barber here. Thanks so much for watching this episode on Temple Music Academy. It never stops. Watch it go.
All right, so if you clicked on this video, chances are you know who this guy is. But just in case you've been stuck in the treble lands, get it? Because he's a bass. This is Peter M. Barber, and the M stands for But seriously, prominent on social media and YouTube, here comes the flashy and ocularly pleasing Peter. Born in Virginia but schooled in Florida, then traveled to California but returned to Virginia. No, wait. Born in Virginia but traveled to Miami, then back to Virginia. No, hang on. Born in Virginia but undergrad there too, more school in Florida before master's program in California, almost a chance he went to London. Started a YouTube but grew on his TikTok, prefers Xbox over PlayStation and fights bears for a workout. Jesus. Peter Barber is known for his YouTube but adored for his performances opera bound and beyond. I get a chance to hang out and chat with the myth himself while we await for the legend. Let's see what shenanigans will ensue. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Peter Barber. What's up, home sizzle?
Hey man, thanks for having me on the show. Looking forward to chatting.
Heck yeah. I really appreciate you having nothing else better to do. So I appreciate you a great deal, man. Dude, this is so cool because I've been looking at your stuff for a while. Obviously, that goes without saying. I do the little reactor thing from time to time, and Bass Gang and Peter Barber in general just comes up a ton, especially in our live streams when we do them Monday nights and whatnot. So I thought, hey, let's reach out to this Peter guy who seems like a really cool human, because I don't want to talk to non-cool humans, and I just want to get to know you. So obviously, thanks for coming on. I know you got somewhere you got to be, so I'm just going to jump right into some weirdos that I typed on my Word document here. If you'll indulge me, I love to start these things with a little thing I call fill in the blanks.
Okay.
So Peter Barber, born and raised in Virginia.
Correct.
To the winner of the University of Southern California CCO ARIA competition.
ARIA competition.
ARIA competition. Okay, yes. Please fill in the blanks.
Oh my gosh, the rest of it. That's a lot. Okay, yeah. So born and raised Crozet, Virginia. Grew up there, was all about sports, all about sports. Played a bit of trombone in middle school. The only competitive singing I did was an audition choir my senior year of high school. Was in a jazz singing group in high school as well. This is all kind of, like my mom wanting me to sing more. Right before senior year, my mom goes, "Hey, you've got like a loud, low voice compared to most people. Maybe you should try out some classical singing." That teacher I had told me I should consider doing that in undergrad. Went to undergrad for voice, switched to music production, started producing a lot of electronic music, transferred to James Madison University, finished my degree in music production, decided to go to grad school for opera. So that's where I ended up at USC. And aria is just a song from an opera. So I won a competition there, kind of started to kickstart the opera career. And I've been doing the opera thing ever since. So USC for master's, then did my artist diploma at the Academy of Vocal Arts in Philadelphia. Outside of that, I, started the YouTube thing in 2020, did these reaction analysis videos, did covers, started this group called the Bass Gang, and have grown the following to over 100,000 subscribers as of just last weekend.
Damn, silver play button on the way, homie.
On the way, yeah.
James Madison University, based in Harrisonburg, Virginia.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Bravo.
No, but you list your degree as music industry.
Yeah. So that was my So I started as opera, and it was completely overwhelming because I didn't know what I was getting into. Didn't know anything about classical technique, really, aside from those few voice lessons I had at the end of my senior year of high school. And, when I was in Miami, like surrounded by electronic music and all these amazing DJs, I was like, damn, this is so cool. I want to get into this. So when I transferred from University of Miami to James Madison to finish my undergrad, I also switched my major from voice to music industry with a focus in music production. And I kept training my voice, and I kept doing the operas as needed because opera programs always need basses. But my main focus was producing electronic music in my undergrad.
I'm curious, is it
Is it solely your passion for electronic music and music production that made you want to choose that degree specifically in the beginning? Or was it just like that looks good, course code 6, and here I go?
So I mean, well, I originally went to Miami for voice.
Okay.
So I auditioned for them for the opera program, got in, and then while I was there, those 2 years, discovered the electronic music. So then when I transferred 2 years later, then I switched my major. That it was because of my time in Miami. But going down there, no, I mean I was familiar with electronic music. I kind of discovered it my senior year when it was, kind of becoming popular in the States with like Bass Nectar and Pretty Lights. If you ever heard of Pretty Lights, I remember I went to a Pretty Lights show the fall of my senior year of high school, and it like completely blew my mind. But I never considered making that kind of music until I was like really surrounded by it in that Miami environment.
Got you. A little bit of nightclub action, maybe, wink.
Yeah, a little wink wink nightclub action.
Why specifically USC for the Masters, and was it difficult to get placement there?
Great question. So I was originally planning to go to my post undergrad master's degree for like composition or this electronic music production. The last year of undergrad, I did a show called Così fan tutte. It's a Mozart opera, and had such a blast that I pivoted like right before audition season to wanting to go to master's for voice, and didn't apply anywhere for music production. And I had a mentor at JMU that was like, listen, the music production stuff, you don't need to get another degree for that. You can figure out the rest of that on your own, basically. Classical singing, you need a lot of training. You just need a ton of formal training. So I ended up applying and auditioning for 5 schools, I think, for voice. And my criteria at the time was, if I can't get a full ride, I'm not going to go.
Okay.
Because my thinking was, and I retrospectively, I think this is actually a pretty clear line of thinking. You really don't want to get into a ton of debt going into a career in the arts.
Mm-hmm. So just to clarify for anybody watching that's not from North America, quote unquote free ride, assuming meaning like a full scholarship, like you don't have to pay out of pocket to go, which is a real thing we need to consider in North America, and specifically in music education. Ooh.
There are people, just a quick side note, I mean, there are people that come out of their music degrees with like 200 grand in debt. And I'm like, unless you are a superstar or you completely pivot careers somehow and become a lawyer, like you just never going to work that off. Yeah. So my thinking was, if I go, I want to be good enough to where I have a full scholarship now, which really means like I've got a real shot. If I can get into a good master's program with a full ride, I've got a shot at this thing. That was my thinking. And so I applied to 5 schools, and I ended up getting two of those offers. I remember I got into the Royal College of Music in London, which they didn't give me any money. Got into a couple other schools that gave me some money. I think San Francisco Conservatory gave me like half ride. Manhattan School of Music gave me like a half ride, which means still like $25,000 a year, because schools are so absurdly expensive in this country. I know it's absurd. But University of Miami, where I did those first 2 years, they were happy to have me come back and give me a full rod plus a TA position. So I'd get paid to be there to teach kind of basic classes. And the same offer came in from USC, which was my top choice. So full scholarship plus some amount of money per month to teach basic vocology. So, like kind of like rudimentary fundamental voice science classes to undergrads, and to teach voice lessons to non-music majors. So it was the best deal. So I was like, I get to go to my #1 school to work with a voice teacher I really wanted to work with, and I got the full scholarship and the TA position.
Yeah, I mean, holy shit. Like, wow. Yeah, shout out to USC. Way to hook up my boy here.
Thank you, USC. They really put me on the path I am now.
I'm curious about something that you said, which was teaching basic voice lessons, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So is that like a blanket TA salary, or would you get paid per lesson, or did you have to have a quota of number of students you had to teach, blah blah blah?
Totally blanket per month. So they had a set amount we get paid each month, and you have a set amount of work you do. So for us, it was 10 hours a week. I believe it was 1 2-hour basic voice science class that was like Friday mornings, and then 6 hours of private instruction, and then 2 hours of like office work, basically. But it was 10 hours a week on top of all the other master's responsibility. So it was busy. It was very busy. Meanwhile, you know, especially, I mean, I sang 2 like really big roles there. So like while those productions are happening and while you're doing like, you know, traveling for auditions on the weekends, it was very, very busy. And that, you know, that was before any of the YouTube stuff.
Well, yeah, a lot of people listening probably think 10 hours of work a week. Come on. But on top of a master's program and your auditions.
That's the thing. No, it's more like 60-hour weeks probably if you put it all together. Because, you know, we would have, when I was singing Figaro in the Marriage of Figaro, for example, you know, we would have rehearsal from 4 to 10 most days of the week with like a 1-hour dinner break. So factor that into a few other voice lessons and a few classes. I mean, I was like getting up to go to the gym at 6 a.m. and then not getting home till 10 p.m. basically for a lot of days.
I relate 100% with my own life, minus the gym. You know, I'm on a seafood diet where I see food and I eat it.
I've never heard that. That's good. That's good.
Calories don't count before 10 and after 11, right? I'm curious what your biggest takeaway from USC is now that you reflect on this.
Man, I mean, well, USC really, my undergrad, really good music school, JMU, great music school, but really focused in like music education. So I didn't really get any guidance there as far as how to actually have a career in opera, like a number of the fundamental steps you have to take, the kind of training you have to really be doing to have a chance. So USC really laid the groundwork for that. They're like, you need to be looking at these programs to do in the summer. You need to be working on like this repertoire. Like this is how a career really looks. So that's when I really started the opera career. Like USC, I remember my first summer there, I actually did the program I'm also at this summer. I did it 4 years ago. And that program, it's called the Music Academy of the West, really is what like gave me so many great connections in the opera world and like really kind of slingshotted my career in that direction. So USC just kind of gave me a real look at the career, a real outlook and kind of a real blueprint, a real roadmap. And I just didn't have that at all before.
Oh, so that's interesting to point out. Again, I'm curious. So you're saying more like James Madison was like, this is an F, sing it. Ooh, solfege, blah. And then you go to USC and they're like, oh, that's cute, but this is how you have a career. You need these prerequisites. You need this history. You need this resume formation. You need to do these auditions, yada, yada. Oh, congratulations. Yeah. That's a half day.
Yeah, pretty much exactly that. So I think we did do operas. There were actually some really good singers from my time at JMU that are also still on the opera path, just like I am. But no one was talking about, for example, there's these programs called young artist programs, which is like a big step almost every singer takes between education and doing the full-on traveling career. It's kind of like a medical residency. You work for an opera house for a year, or you work for like the place I did in Philly's considered that, the Academy of Vocal Arts. It's just kind of like that transition period where you're like finalizing your training before going on to the full career. I never heard of that in my undergrad at JMU. I didn't even hear about these programs called pay to sings, where you'll like go to Italy for a month to study language and train with, you know, people who are known and respected in the industry. No one talked about any of these programs in my undergrad. So it's just like, okay, you do the school production and then there was nothing else. There's nothing else to go on. And like, you don't make a career doing undergrad opera productions. Like you have to be doing more things to advance the ball.
You list 3 teachers throughout your existence. So I'm curious about this because I know you mentioned Bill Schumann, who I assume you're still a member of his vocal academy, or you've evolved beyond that.
Yeah, Bill will probably be my like forever teacher. But go on, we'll get into that in a second.
Then you got Rod Gilfrey or Gilfrey. I apologize if I say anyone's names wrong. Don't have an Italian name background or whatever.
Don't worry about it.
Who, by the way, he was an amazing guest on your own podcast. That was a great thing. Yeah. I hope he didn't make you wait too long, and I hope the second audio recording worked out.
Right. It was good. Yeah.
And then Mark Oswald, who I assume you're referencing the Manhattan School of Music fame.
Yes, correct.
I'm curious why all 3 were required and what are the advantages of what I consider, if I may put my own word on it, such a diverse dichotomy of teachers.
Yeah. So you generally, like whatever institution you're at, you'll have a teacher. If you're studying at one school, you're going to have a teacher there, and it's generally frowned upon to study with someone else while you're studying with one teacher. One, because you don't usually, you want to at least give a real shot to whatever philosophy the teacher has about singing. I firmly believe that you can learn from anyone, even if you don't like a lot of their teaching. You can find something to improve from what they're giving you. So actually, I've had more teachers than that. Actually, I had that teacher right before my senior year of high school. His name was James Taylor, not the James Taylor that first comes to mind. That would be an interesting opera teacher to have James Taylor.
Drastically different career projection.
Drastically, yeah. Yeah, no, that would have been. I mean, I would love to work with James Taylor, but no, this is a guy who's a tenor at UVA, because it was, Crozet, Charlottesville area. And then I worked with a guy named Kevin Short at University of Miami, who's had a huge career in opera, and same voice type as me. He's a bass, wonderful singer, has had a massive career. And then at James Madison, I studied with a guy named David Newman, who's also a phenomenal singer, but went more down the teaching route. Didn't really go into the full operatic performance kind of career. And then when I was auditioning for grad schools, I met Mark Oswald when I auditioned for Manhattan School of Music, and did lessons with him virtually for a little while. And I feel like he helped me get, an important piece of my technique. Rod Gilfrey, like one of the great like Mozart baritones of the last few decades, just like phenomenal singer. Really, really enjoyed working with him at USC. He also helped me a lot with technique and polishing and finding a more ease in my sound. That's a huge rabbit hole, like talking about vocal technique. And then my current teacher, Bill Schumann, who I actually met at this program 4 years ago, and he kind of ushered me into the Academy of Vocal Arts, where he's a voice teacher there as well. He's really like a polisher. Like Bill is someone you want to get to when you're pretty solid, and he just takes you from like good to great to excellent to exceptional. And he has produced more opera stars than any other teacher probably on the planet. So I guess I've had like six voice teachers, and then there are guest teachers you work, like at this program I'll work with some other voice teachers this summer, just like a lesson or two, not working all the time, but they'll these programs will bring in guest teachers to work. But yeah, so I guess like 6 teachers overall, and the reason there's only 3 right now on the resume is because they're the most recent and the ones who have probably impacted my voice the most since I really started pursuing the career seriously.
That's interesting, because I suppose at the high level academies that you're attending in these, like USC and James Madison and stuff, is they're going to have guest lecturers, for lack of a better term, guest instructors, guest performers, yada. And that'd be quite the list to
exactly.
I have a quote I would like to see after a somewhat deep dive, which is not at all true because this is on your homepage, but chief among the performers was bass baritone Peter Barber in the title role. He sang with stentorian power and seductive grace, and he projected the hard-to-resist charisma of a young man consumed with his own power over women. Here's the question. I'm curious. Is any of that synonymous with your real life? Does Peter Barber pay for his own Netflix password?
I use the family's Netflix. I use the family's Netflix for sure. I did recently get my own Disney Plus after using my sister's for a while, though. Very proud of that. Very proud of that. So that was from Don Giovanni, which is he's just truly, he's like a sociopath. He has like no empathy for anyone, and he prides himself on getting with as many women as possible, or at least seducing as many women as possible. It's not actually determined whether or not he seals the deal on all of those, but for him, it's more of a game. It's more of an ego thing. It's my favorite role I've ever done. No question. I can't even tell you how rewarding and fulfilling it was to sing that role. It's one I've been wanting to do since I started singing opera. And yeah, I was a real piece of shit on stage. I was a real seductor. Like this is like my crowning, I believe. So that review is something I'm very proud of. But my crowning achievement is there was one performance where there were actually, when I took my final bow, there were boos from the audience because I was such a piece of shit on stage. Like I was that convincing.
I get that just going to Whole Foods. Like you had to like, wow, dude. Wow.
Yeah. So it's like, and people, I remember I talked after opening night and some people were like, oh my, like, so I get completely dragged. I get dragged to hell in the end of the show. And our production, I'm getting like ripped apart by these demon women. They're putting like black paint all over me. There's a whole photo album on my website. You can check out. It was amazing production. And there were people afterwards that were like, "Oh my gosh, like I really got attached to Giovanni. I was like so sad. I was crying when he got dragged to hell." And there are other people like, "God, it was so great, you narcissistic head fuck. Like, I'm so glad you got screwed in the end." So it's like, I was like, this is what it's about, like this super wide range of response to the same performance.
See, you've achieved so much acclaim in aspects of your existence as a human. I mean, listed the very bare minimum: your music career, your music education, your talks here about getting a place in the master's program set in your own terms, your YouTube fame, Tim Faust, as a guest on your bass gang, the creation of the bass gang. I know you list yourself as being a quarter of the bass gang, but I would assume you have more than a quarter role given your music production background and obviously being the business guy or whatever. I'm curious what an example of what Peter Barber would classify as a loss was, and how the hell you overcame it.
Wow, a loss. It's interesting. I mean, there have been a lot, like I feel like there have been a lot of potential losses, red lights, yellow lights, that I've turned into green lights, as Matthew McConaughey would say. I mean, one, like COVID's a big one. Like there were so many opera singers that just completely stopped during COVID because there was no opera. Like it took a while for companies and programs to get to the virtual thing, which is not how opera is meant to be performed. It's all about the voice live. But instead, I was like, okay, everything's shut down. What can I do? First thing is like, I'm just going to try and make an a cappella cover. And then doing that led me to where I met the bass gang, and I went from there. And then at some point I was like, I'm going to give this musical analysis videos a shot, and I went from there. So it was like this huge potential stop in my life has turned into something that's now a fundamental instrumental part of my career and, my financial comfort. And that doesn't happen without COVID. So like, this horrible thing for the world, this total red light to my opera career turned into a green light.
I see by your resume that you list conductors and directors that you've worked with, but I'm curious where Peter Barber draws the line between teachers versus coach and conductor versus director.
Okay, this is a great question. Great question. And I feel like it's something you only learn the distinctions once you get far enough in the career, especially between voice teacher and vocal coach. That one is something so great question. So a voice teacher is someone you go to generally once a week, the same person once a week for like an hour to work purely on your vocal technique. So this is doing all the la 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 la, like all the exercises and stuff like that. And usually at the end of that lesson, you'll sing an aria, song from an opera with them, or you'll sing a classical art song and you'll apply that technique to it. A vocal coach, you can have a bunch of vocal coaches because vocal coaching is all about the artistic presentation of the piece, like really digging into the text and trying to convey it the right way and using the right vocal colors or vocal timbres to convey emotion and understanding, what the composer might have wanted here or there. Like, did they really mean staccato? Like, how should we deal with that? And you can have a bunch of vocal coaches because at the end of the day, you're just getting a lot of different artistic interpretations of some piece. So you could have 10 coachings with 10 different vocal coaches on the same aria or art song. And then you kind of pick and choose what you like from that. So voice teacher, just vocal technique, and then vocal coaches is all about how you're going to present your stuff to the world. Conductors are they're actually the people leading the musical performance, right? So they're the one with the stick in front of the orchestra showing exactly what happens. Directors are the people who they get the show on its feet. So they're directing all the acting. The director that takes care of all the acting, how the characters are interacting with each other on stage, where the props are going, all that side of the artistic production. Then you've got the conductor leading the music. Then you got the vocal coaches working on how you present it. And then you've got your voice teacher working on vocal technique.
Wow.
Scene. So they all do very, very different things, even though they're all in that, they're like the team that really makes the opera or the production what it is, all of them together.
This segment I like to call rapid fire, where I'm just going to ask you a series of rando questions that wasn't meant to fill up interview time at all. It's a deep dive into your psyche,
Okay.
Peter.
Yes. Okay. I'm prepared.
Rapid fire. Here we go. Calling or texting?
Calling.
Pie or cake?
Ooh, cake.
Water or soda?
Water.
Movie or series?
Series. That's tough.
Work from home or office?
Work from home.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
PlayStation or Xbox?
Xbox.
Okay, now here's the toughest question. Are we best friends?
We are, I think, best friends after this conversation. Yeah.
Yes. What are 3 things that make you happy?
Ooh, okay. Being on stage, like literally in the performance on stage, when you can lose yourself in the character and there's that electric energy between you and the audience. There's nothing in the world like it. That's one thing. Spending time with close friends. Absolutely huge. Like I just had the pleasure of going to a wedding in Italy last weekend with for one of my best friends, and it was just an incredible experience to be there in Italy. Close friends, like just all love and joy, and like so much love and joy you don't even care about the jet lag. It's like that kind of thing. And 3, there are a lot of things that make me happy, and I've been thinking more and more about that lately, like really working on gratitude a lot lately. A 3rd one is just getting something done. Like at the end of an interview like this, I'm like, yes, we did that. Like we had a good time and like made some content that other people are gonna find value in.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Oh, they will. They for sure will. And like Sam, if I shoot an interview or if I shoot a new analysis video, it's like it'll be the kind of thing where sometimes going into it, I'm like, I like wish I could be doing something else. And then in the middle of it, I'm like, this is awesome. And then at the end of it, I'm like, that was awesome. So there's 3 for you.
Well, my friend, which I'm going to call you that now, new best friend. I appreciate all of the time that you took, because I know you're a busy ass dude, man. And I'm just up here in Canada waiting for the dog sled to warm up. And I do want to thank you so much on behalf of the Templars Abound. This has been Peter Barber, who is 1/4 of the base gang, but 3/4 of my heart.
Wow. All right. 3/4.
I appreciate you, man. You're a wonderful human being, and may the most that you hope for be the least that you get.
Well, thank you so much for having me, DJ. It's been a pleasure. You are a very talented conversationalist and interviewer, and I need to check out your music. So you should send me that album.